So before we were interrupted, the last thing we were talking about is constructors can be overloaded. That's when there are more than one and they have different return types, different parameters. Okay. But the main thing is constructors are giving, setting the attributes, setting the variables to appropriate values. Otherwise you have this thing and the values don't mean anything. Finally, classes have methods which determine their behavior. So you may remember months ago we had a class called a frog, and you could say frog.hop, and it made the frog move forward on its little imaginary number line. In our rectangle universe, I'm going to say public int get area, and in here it returns return width times height. So this is a method. So if you created a rectangle object and then you wanted to know what the area of it was, you could just call this method and you would get back the area. Yes?
So why don't you use the W and the H we declared in the constructor?
The W and the H, so the question was why aren't we using the W and the H up here that were in the constructor? These are temporary local variables. They only exist right when this constructor is running and then they're gone. So obviously some other code is calling the constructor, and so that code might have those variables available, in which case you could certainly use that. But you might be creating a whole range of objects like a rectangle, a circle, a triangle, and then you might want to be able to call get area on whatever the object was without having to worry about how to calculate it. You let the object calculate its own area. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, right at the very top. So it says public class rectangle and then private int. I should show it to you all put together. We'd have to just copy these pieces out and put them all together. But I wanted to just talk about them as we went along. We're going to look at 5 different classes in a few minutes, and we'll walk through and just see what they're all what they look like. So methods can be public or private, depending on what you need. But I'd say for our purposes in this class, you don't have to worry about that. Just make them public all the time. And there are 2 special types of methods. Type 1, accessor or getter methods give you private variable information, and mutator or setter methods set private variable information. So basically, when you design a class and you create an object, other programs can't directly access the variables inside of your object because we made them private. And you might say, well, why don't we make them public? Well, the reason is in Java, with object-oriented programming, you want to have an object that handles its own business and has certain very clear pathways where other people can change what's going on inside of that object. So if you just let anybody say, oh, I'm going to change the width of this rectangle to 17, then other programs might have a problem with that. Also, one program might accidentally set the width to a negative number, and you'd be like, yeah, that's bad. So to prevent that, to help control things, you as the software designer, I love this, the garbage truck right in the middle of our notes, but I appreciate they're picking up the green waste. If you wanted to make a way for people to change the rectangle width or height, you could make what's called a mutator or a setter method that controlled it. And your setter method could check to make sure that whatever the new value is, it's not negative, or maybe your rectangles have to be between 1 and 100 in width, and so your code could check, hey, I'm making sure that whatever number they're sending over is valid. Rather than just letting anybody change the variable, you would have this pathway where people could appropriately change it. And then same thing with the accessor and getter methods. I mean, those are the same meaning. That's a way to get that hidden information, because normally, since it's private, you can't just get to the variable and see its value. You have to. Somebody has to write a little method. The method could be as simple as I'll show you let's do a getter method. Public int get width, and it just says return width. So it may seem like a lot of work but as we develop more interesting classes, there'll be more obvious reasons why you want to keep the information private and hidden. But this is a getter method. See, it's just giving you the width value. So if this was a real class, we'd probably have one for get width and also another one for get height, so that you could just call it and get the information right out of there. Otherwise, it's hidden because it's private. And then for a mutator method, public void set width, just to pick on width, and then you would have to be sending over a variable of what you wanted the new width to be. And this is where you could just set it, or you could put in safety checks to make sure that it's not negative or that it's within a certain range or whatever. But you're controlling how someone changes the width. You're not having it just out there for anybody to change. All right, so that's the main part of our notes. And what we're going to do next is I'd like you to go online and download the zip file that's day35.zip. And there's, I think, 5 classes in there. It's up